When you told the defense you had made a mistake about your memory, did they pressure you?
Yes.
Did they pressure you to say something other than the truth?
Yes, they wanted me to repeat a lie at that point, given it would have been with malicious intent to repeat it. They did not want me to tell the truth, so I told them that knowing they were kind of trying to eat me alive into repeating something that is not the truth.
Rather than to come in here and be attacked, wouldn't it have been easier just to said what you had earlier thought was true?
Well, of course.
So why did you come in here?
My entire job revolves around what I say on the stand right now. If I was to lie, I lose my job. I lose everything. I'm here to tell the truth. I cannot lie while sitting on the stand.
If you agreed with what you said in August of 2023 on this witness stand, you would be implicating two officers, fellow officers, correct?
So I'm confused as to what you're asking.
You would be implicating, if you agreed with me, you have not agreed that that was the truth. You've now indicated that what you told to law enforcement agents in August of 2023 was a lie.
No.
If you agreed with that statement here on the witness stand, you would be implicating two officers as having been in the Sallyport, weirdly, for a wildly long time with the SUV, implicating not one, but two fellow officers, correct? That's what you would be doing.
It's not possible I saw
If you
that.
agreed with
Objection.
me, would you be implicating the reputations of two officers?
If I was to lie, then yes.
And your entire job revolves around what you say on that witness stand. That's what you said, correct? That's what you just said, Officer Dever, correct?
I still don't really understand the question.
You just said, all I'm asking you is what you just said. I wrote it down. You just said, my entire job revolves around what I say on the witness stand, correct?
Yes to that
Thank
question.
you. That's all I have.
Good evening, everyone. How y'all doing?
Good.
David,
How you
wanna-
doing?
Good.
Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Megan?
I'm Megan. Thank you so much for having me back tonight.
I'm Dave.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Jason, thanks for having me on. I'm Dave, and happy to talk about this portion of the proceedings.
Well, here's the thing. Some people don't really know about the trial. I don't know. I know y'all know a lot. Y'all basically savants when it comes to the Karen Reed trial. So what I would want to say is Karen Reed, she went on vacation with her boyfriend, who's an officer. And long story interrupted, he ended up deceased not too long after, and she's getting all the blame for it. And it seems as if she's being framed. And David and Megan, they know a lot about this trial. So we're just going to watch some footage just to see. So y'all can see that stuff seems fishy. But David, what did you think about the film we just watched so far?
I would have thought Alan Jackson was cross-examining this witness based off of his tone. She came across as evasive. She came across as petty with regards to, we may get through this in the videos, but calling out how he pronounced her name. She was combative. But I think at one point in the testimony, initially I thought it was going bad for the defense because she seemed like she didn't want to answer questions. And then Alan Jackson flipped the script and he literally said, "Do you want to be here?" And she says, "I have no idea why I'm here." And he said, "You have no idea why you're here?" And then he starts getting into the details. But one of the things that I'll point out before, and it may come up, and if it does, we can cover it at that point. She was a rookie Boston police officer, a patrol officer. No disrespect to that role. It's important. It's protecting the community. Out of 2,800 Boston police officers, why was she called to the commissioner's office, or the chief's office rather, to discuss the details of this case? And the chief basically said two things: tell the truth and do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can see a potential wink wink in what he means.
You took the words out of my mouth. As he's saying that, it's a do the right thing, wink, wink.
See, when I spoke to someone, they thought do the right thing meant like just tell the truth. And I'm like, that's not what I hear. I hear exactly what y'all just said. Like,
So
do the right thing, support us.
You've got a dead Boston police officer, right? And the way that I got involved with this case, just to go back for a second, was I heard it in the news around the time of the incident, and you thought, holy crap, poor John O'Keefe, which still to this day, poor John O'Keefe, he did not deserve anything that occurred in this incident. But then you hear it may have been a tragic accident and whatnot. And then you start peeling that back months and months and months later, and it became uncovered through exculpatory documents provided by the FBI. There was a 227 Google search for How's Long to Die in Cold. Brian Albert was a Boston police officer whose John O'Keefe's body was found on that lawn. But the thing that really capped this off for me was, look at his arm injuries. And, you know, we may not get into it tonight, but Dr. Marie Russell, who has impeccable, impeachable credentials, 30 years as an emergency room physician, forensic pathologist, which means she, number one, she can not only identify, she can treat, but she can also determine the cause and manner of death. That was not caused by a car accident. So that's where I got involved. And, you know, that's a little long-winded, but I just wanted to give you a background as to how I got here.
Nice. Megan, how did you get here?
Actually, it was Dave that had asked me one day when I was at his house. He said, are you following this? I mean, I love true crime. I've been interested in it my whole life. And when he told me about this, I remember getting the news alert about an officer's body being found on a lawn. And I could be wrong, but I do believe one of the very first news articles that came out said that he was leaving a party. And then it said that they were ring camera footage.
Right.
And I remember all of that. And I just remember being like, this is, you know, same as Dave, like, man, that sucks. That's awful. And then they're saying it's the girlfriend that hit him and a tragic accident. And I'm like, what? Well, I mean, if there's ring camera footage, you'll be able to see whether it was a tragic accident or whether she actually purposely hit him. And that's what caught my attention. And then months later, Dave asked me if I've actually looked into the case. And he had given me, I mean, pretty much what he had just said about all of the corruption that an untrained person can look at the evidence that's being presented and just see that there is absolutely no way that this was caused by a car. And like Dave said, the dog bites on his arm. I mean, and Dr. Marie Russell kept continuously said they were parallel. They were parallel marks on his arm. A taillight's not going to cause that. It's not going to cause the pattern of the injuries to his arm.
Right. And I think the other thing too, Megan, is that you mentioned parallel. It's parallel patterns, right? And she did basically what's called oh my God, what is it? Basically looking at all different types of potential causes for injury. So was it a knife wound? Was it a gunshot? Was it somebody with a beer bottle? And then she gets down based off of her experience, which was hundreds and hundreds of autopsies. She was basically the chief autopsy examiner for Los Angeles, which is, I believe, the second largest.
Los Angeles.
Yes, which is the second largest medical unit in the country, as well as not only identifying, treating, but also determining dog injuries. And she's written peer-reviewed studies. She quoted 2 peer-reviewed studies in her testimony the other day. But just to stay with the dog, which is what convinced me, the dog, let's call them alleged dog injuries. I know 4 things to be true about dogs. And I don't know, Jay, if you're a dog owner or not. No. But number 1, my dogs can hear a church mouse pissing on cotton from a half mile away. if somebody's walking down the street, they will go to that window and they will bark. And they're not German Shepherds. Number two, if somebody comes in the house, and Megan, you've seen this before, my dogs are on top of you the second you get in the house. Third, what's the first thing a dog needs to do in the morning?
Use the bathroom.
The second my feet step out of bed, my dogs are downstairs before I am. And then you talk about the officers that were in that house the next morning. You talk about the McCabe's that were in the house next morning. You talk about the other Alberts that showed up with donuts the next morning. Did anybody see or hear a dog? Nobody on record said that. And number four, if you look at how a trained dog is, and Marie Russell alluded to this, how a trained dog attacks versus a dog does not want to attack. A dog is extremely nervous to attack unless their owner is involved in a confrontation. And that dog was not trained to latch. That dog was not trained to attack on command. That dog was, more importantly, not trained to release on command. So those are four, in my experience with dogs, those are the four things you cannot argue. And nobody saw a dog or heard a dog in that house the next morning. So I mean, we went a little off topic, but I just wanted to.
Well, I want to say this because I when my wife told me about her, I thought she was guilty. So I saw from a different perspective.
Sure.
When I saw the dog bites, I looked at it and I'm like, and the fact that I thought she was guilty, I was trying to convince myself it wasn't. I'm like, maybe the tail light went inside of his arm somehow. And I'm trying to convince myself. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I just couldn't believe. I knew it looked like dog bites, not dog bite, but like as if a dog kind of like tried to grab but kind of missed. I couldn't really tell, but I was just trying to convince myself it was not a dog bite.
But here's the thing: you don't have to prove that she did it. That she didn't do it. They have to prove that she did do it.
That's what's tough. Yeah. That's not. Put it this way, like Megan said, after I started looking at the evidence, I'm like, wait, hold on. There's no way anybody could convince me that they're not framing her. And it was after I had to look at the evidence for myself because, with Karen Reed smiling, I'm like, if you're smiling, to me, you're guilty. That's how I felt. I know I shouldn't have thought like that.
But this isn't a case of whether Karen Reed's a great person or an egomaniac or somewhere between in that spectrum. It's not about that. I mean, put yourself. Let me put myself in that position, or put anybody put themselves in that position. If we're out there trying to defend ourselves, regardless of how we look, how we present ourselves, how we dress, how we talk, whether we answer questions to the media or not, it doesn't matter. The impetus is on the Commonwealth or any prosecution entity across this country to prove their case. It's not on her to make herself look not guilty. Yeah. She doesn't have to say a word to anybody in court by her Fifth Amendment right. She doesn't have to say a word. She's choosing to fight this case in the public because I think, and Megan, you're in ground zero over there. There's a lot of how to say this. There's a lot of familial type of relationships between the court system, between the police department, between state police in that area. And listen, I didn't have a dog. At the end of the day, I don't have a dog in this fight. I just want to make sure that somebody gets a fair trial. Somebody is judged on the evidence presented against them. And if you can't make a case, which at this point, the Commonwealth hasn't even shown how the car hit him. They had Dr. Welcher up there with the Smurf paint on his arm.
That's a joke.
And if I was a reputable prosecutor, and I'm not, And if I was a judge looking at this unbiasedly, which I'm not saying she's biased or not, how do you bring a murder 2 charge against that? That's willful, that's second degree murder. I don't see how that adds up.
Wait,
And not only that, but there's never been any accident report that has come out of this. So they're not allowed, like, if there's a car accident, the very first step is that it's going to go through insurance. Whether you hit a person, whether you hit another car, whether you hit a building, a statue, a fence, because then your car insurance company they are going to do an investigation into it.
wow.
And there has never been any accident report that has been produced from this case.
Right.
But they seem incompetent, like all of them. They
So-
seem as if they just ruined everything.
So if I were the people online, and to be honest, get off of Twitter, get off of Facebook, because you've got people on both sides of the fence that are so into this that they're looking at conspiracy theories and they're looking at this and looking at that, and it's like, how about looking at the evidence? Let's start there. But the people they should be mad at are not Karen Reed. They should be mad at the people who did not do a proper investigation. Why wasn't the crime scene taped off? If Brian Albert is a fellow police officer, why didn't he have him in the house and saying, listen, I know it's 18 degrees outside. Come inside for an hour. Everything's marked off. Have a cup of coffee. Why was there no definitive chain of custody with regard to John O'Keefe's clothing? It was in the bottom of the ambulance, or the floor of the ambulance. It was on the floor of the hospital. Then Michael Proctor gets a hold of it. And let's just be candid here. There's 3 boogeymen in this case. The jury have heard over and over again, Michael Proctor, Brian Higgins, and Brian Albert. And wouldn't you be surprised that the prosecution did not call any of those 3?
They know. I feel I know who did it. So
But I will say this, and like we can continue because we got off tangent, but I think this is a great discussion. I don't think any person involved, and I have my opinions too. I will just say this. I don't think it was premeditated in any way that somebody wanted to kill John O'Keefe. I think there was a lot of liquor going around that night. There was a lot of testosterone by very large individuals.
yeah.
There was obviously some tension between Karen Reed and Brian Higgins through the text messages that came out. I think something was said. Fists went a flying. Something had to have caused the injury in the back of his head. And I don't think it was hard grass on a lawn. And a dog sees its owner involved in a scrum. A dog is going to get involved.
Well, that's my cue. Let's go to Officer Duffus.
With the case that's presently before the bench, correct?
In some capacity, yes.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Yes.
All right. January 28th, 2022. Where were you working? What was your duty assignment on that day, January 28th, moving into January 29th?
Well, 3.5 years later, I remember I was on patrol. I don't remember anything further about this night.
Did you work overnight, like a late shift going into the morning of January 29th?
That was my assigned shift, so yes.
Okay. Who else was working with you on that particular day, if you recall?
Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Officer Seraph, and Officer Pasquarelli.
And what generally was your assignment when you went into work that night on January 28th?
Patrol.
At some point, either that evening or the early morning hours of January 29th, did you note that a call came in related to a person found in the snow, unresponsive in the snow?
Yes.
Tell me about that. The nature of the call and where were you?
I was in my cruiser. A call came in that said person in a snowbank, something along those lines. Immediately followed by that transmission, my sergeant requested that I come to take over dispatch.
Is that Sergeant Good?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, respond back to Canton PD to take over dispatch?
Yes, so I was already in the parking lot of the Canton Police while this took place, so I was already at the station.
Did you know whether or not Sergeant Good and or any of the others responded to the location while you stayed back to handle dispatch at the police department?
Yes, that's why I went inside so he could respond.
Were you aware that Sergeant Good, did you have any knowledge at that time that Sergeant Good was familiar with or knew who Brian Albert was?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know who Brian Albert was at
No.
that time?
No.
Do you now? At least
Because of
familiar
this
with the
case,
name.
yes.
I spoke over you. I'm so sorry. Based on this case, are you familiar with the name?
The name, yes.
Okay. Did you know Kevin Albert?
No. Oh, the detective Kevin Albert. Yes, I did.
Correct. How did you know Kevin Albert?
He was a detective for the Canton Police.
Were you aware of his relationship to Brian Albert at that time?
No.
Are you now aware of his relationship with Brian Albert?
Yes, from the media.
And what is that relationship as you know it?
Sustained.
Wait, who's Kevin Albert?
So Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother. He's a detective on the Canton Police Department. But this is just a kind of pause here. This is before Alan Jackson asked her, "Do you want to be here?" And you could just see the little percolation of being kind of objective to his questions, right? She didn't necessarily want to answer those questions. And up to this point, I thought it was a bad call for the defense to call her.
So wait, that's their witness?
That's their witness. This is nuts. He's basically cross-examining his own witness.
That's what it felt like.
Correct, right?
Holy.
Did you know Brian Higgins at that time?
Yes, in passing.
I'm not asking if you're social friends, asking if you knew who he was.
Yes.
How'd you know who Brian Higgins was?
He had an office in the Canton Police.
Was he a sworn police officer?
Not for us.
Was he a sworn federal agent?
Yes.
Worked for ATF?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you known and been familiar with Brian Higgins? Say, for instance, by sight, to be able to recognize who he was.
Sometime during 2020 is when I was probably first familiarized with him, because that's when I was employed with the Canton Police Department first.
Okay. Pass him in the hallways, hi, bye, things like that.
Yes.
Sustained is to form, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Did you know him by sight?
Can we pause real quick?
Yes.
Could you
I would like to go back to when, first, she didn't even allow Jackson to ask the question of if she knew Kevin Albert. She was saying no before the words had even finished coming out of Alan Jackson's mouth. She was born and raised in Canton.
Oh.
Brian Albert's family, born and raised in Canton. Brian Albert also had a TV show. He was the head of the fugitive task force for Boston PD, and he had the show Boston's Finest, which was filmed at his home in Canton.
How long
Brian
ago?
Albert,
2010.
She looks young.
right. However, Brian Albert has a son her age.
Oh,
They
good.
graduated in the same class, as my understanding, in 2016. So they went to all rolled in the same circles. There's again, listen, I she's going to say what she's going to say on the witness stand, but the Alberts held, maybe not anymore, but held a significant amount of sway in that town. Everybody knew the Alberts.
So she's just blatantly lying. That's what
Yes.
y'all saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, read between the lines. Yeah.
But how's
I
that?
mean,
How's that? Oh man. Well, we gonna continue.
Yep, go ahead.
please, yeah.
Recognize it. If you saw
I'll be right back in 1 second, okay?
2.5 years later, no, but at the time, yes.
I'm not asking you about right now. I'm asking you back in January 2022. Could you recognize him by sight?
Yes.
Did you know who Kenneth Berkowitz was?
Yes.
Who's Kenneth Berkowitz?
He was the chief of the Canton Police.
Obviously very familiar with him. He was your boss, correct?
Yes.
When Sergeant Good instructed you to take over dispatch,
I walked inside and I sat down in a dispatch room.
describe the dispatch room. What did that array look like?
There was chairs and computers.
Monitors?
Yes.
Does the dispatch area also have monitors of internal security camera footage?
I know there was camera screens, but I don't know if they were on TVs or computers or where in dispatch they were. I don't recollect where they were or how they would be accessed. They
right.
were in the room somewhere. I can't be more specific. I don't remember.
But you do recall seeing that there were monitors that were showing different views of internal security camera footage of Canton PD, correct?
The specifics, no. Were there? Yes.
I don't know what you mean by specifics. I'm asking you, were there monitors that you could look at that showed security camera footage from inside Canton PD, different areas, hallways, corridors, offices, the Sallyport, for instance?
So, 2.5 years since I've...
You keep saying 2.5 years later.
So let her finish her answer and then ask a question.
Sure.
It's been years since I've been in that room. They were somewhere in the room. Where cameras were in the Canton Police Department, I don't recall. The media's provided me information since this case took place, and I can't speak on what's my recollection and what's been media provided. There are cameras. I don't know where on my memory.
So can we pause there for a
The
second?
media informed you that there were...
She spoke with the FBI before any of this got out. She she gave her report to the FBI before any of this information was out. She was a police officer, and any police officer knows when they're in their office area, what cameras are where, what they're facing, what they're recording, and how they're recorded. And the reason I know that is because our town where I live took our kids for a tour, and they explained in vivid detail. Every officer that was in that police station said, "This looks at this. This looks at this cell. This looks at the actual Sallyport. They call it a different term up here. This looks at the ball fields over there." They knew down to the millimeter where those cameras go. And this is where, if she was not so combative and evasive, then she would have actually done more harm to the defense. If she just said, "I don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't recall." But being this defensive, that the jury's picking this up, and the jury's like, "Wait, she..."
Exactly.
You see where I'm going with that, Jason?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's common sense knowledge. Whether you're an officer or you're not, a police department is going to have cameras everywhere. You don't need to be an officer to know that the moment you step into a police department, the moment you pull into the parking lot of a police department, you're going to be on camera.
Mm-hmm.
But how's she a police officer and her memory doesn't work? I don't understand that.
Well, it's not that her memory doesn't work. She doesn't want her memory to work.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're not falling for it. I know I'm not falling for that.
I don't think a jury falls for that, too. And this gets back to just... I consider her a prosecution witness based on Alan Jackson basically cross-examining her. It gets back to... If you go back to Yuri Buchanan for a second, he is dying on the hill of Michael Proctor. He was not the lead investigator. He was the case manager. The colonel of the Mass State Police that fired him for bias in this case called him the lead detective. And listen, I get it. I understand there's a code within law enforcement. 99.9% of all law enforcement are above reproach. They're wonderful people. But if you're dying on the hill of Michael Proctor, what he should have said was, Michael Proctor is a flawed human being. Michael Proctor made huge mistakes. I do not condone what happened. Michael Proctor lost his job for all this. And instead, he refused to admit that there were flaws in the investigation.
Didn't he say he was great or something?
He did this with honor and dignity.
Honor and integrity.
Integrity,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, at a certain point, guy, like, Michael Proctor's done. He's never going to be a police officer again.
Oh, he's done.
He's fired. He's terminated by the Mass State Police.
But what I'm saying is he can't go somewhere else and get a job?
I'm sure there's towns in Nevada that would hire him or something. He's not going to get hired around here.
Okay.
He's national news. Do a Google search for Michael Proctor, and you'll see he is all over the place. Fox News picked it up.
I mean, the Associated Press picked it up.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
because, to your point, he still has his. He hasn't been stripped of. I forget the name of it, but there is something that, say there was a police force in the middle of Alaska that was so desperate for officers, he does still have the credential to become one.
Okay.
But
Not on the East Coast.
No. However, there's online sleuths. Anybody's going to look for a hiring document for Michael Proctor, whether it's in Timbuktu or New York City, and somebody's going to call that police station and be like, "Hey, do you know who Michael Proctor is? Want to take a look?" And the first thing that's going to show up is his termination letter with cause from the Massachusetts State Police. And
Then why would Yuri back him up then?
to try to save the case.
they're boys. They're boys. Let's call it as it is. They were partners for how many years? And
Yeah, but if you're my boy, you got to understand, like, you're done. Don't bring me down with you. Like, it makes no sense.
well, no,
But-
I think it's
And
the
Buchanan was above him.
Yeah.
He was a
He was
supervisor.
his sergeant. So,
Right.
I mean, from the top down, if one of the people that you oversee messes something up as royally as Michael Proctor messed this up, you're going to try to save face for yourself.
Right.
And I mean, this is the hill that he's dying on, and I'm to be honest, I'm surprised that Yuri Buchanan still has his job.
I mean, that's another story for another day. The trial isn't over, and Michael Proctor didn't get suspended until the day after the first trial ended. So
The day after. Oh, wow.
there's a lot of conveniences with regards to when suspensions and whatnot happen. And like I said, 99.9% of law enforcement my town are fantastic. They bend over backwards for us. But I don't know if it's you get in over your head, you get compromised, whatever happens. But there's just a lot of coincidences here with between the Mass State Police and Canton Police, and as we see with Kelly Devers, again, not to deviate too much, the Boston Police Department too. She was a rookie cop of 2,800 uniformed police officers meeting with the commissioner. I don't know any organization that a person at that rung who is a rookie gets into an office with the commissioner or chief or whatever his exact title was. I just find it very curious.
She doesn't.
No, of course not.
Internal security monitors at the dispatch location.
So the objection is sustained. Next question.
What do you recall from the dispatch room, as you put it? What do you recall being there in terms of monitors?
I remember there was a computer screen that had information about current calls, and then there was a 911 screen next to that. Those are the two computers that I would have been positioned in front of during this time.
As a dispatch officer, by the way, you were a sworn officer at
Yes.
that time, correct? Uniform, badge, gun, the whole works, right?
Yes.
Had you ever been in Sallyport at Canton PD?
Yes.
What's the Sallyport?
A Sallyport is a garage, essentially.
Okay. You're aware that the Sallyport garage had a camera, a security camera?
It would make sense because that's where we bring prisoners to drop them off.
Well, more than just makes sense. I'm asking you, do you recall that it had cameras that
She's rude.
serviced the Sallyport garage? Security cameras.
It's where we brought prisoners, so there would be cameras, yes.
Okay, you're saying there would be cameras. I'm asking you, were there cameras?
According to the media, yes. I've seen the footage, so yes, there were cameras.
All right, so hold on. So I'm going to strike that, officer. You have to answer the question based on your own independent methods, okay? And if you don't have them, tell us. But you
Look how rude she
can't
is.
reference what you know from the media.
All right.
Visibly uncomfortable.
There were cameras in the Sallyport.
Thank you. Ms. Dever, do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case,
I
so
didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection, this isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can, no comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Do you want to be here today now?
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
You have never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand.
No.
Are you uncomfortable testifying?
No, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
Did one of the monitors that you looked at, that you had access to at the dispatch area, did it show the video footage or the video feed from the Sallyport garage?
So I already said I don't remember where in dispatch the screen with the cameras was. There was a camera in the Sallyport. So if I'm going to make the assumption, then yes, of course. But now that's an assumption.
I'm not asking you for an assumption, ma'am. I'm asking you, did one of the feeds, now we've talked about the camera, the other side of the camera is the feed. Do you recall whether or not there was footage that you could see on a monitor in the dispatch area that showed the Sallyport?
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
My clarification.
How long?
So I don't know what that means. So what do you mean you're going to go with yes? Is your answer yes?
She's allowed to do this?
I could go to the bathroom and come back, and she still hasn't answered.
Well,
She's-
she knows that she's going to get caught in a lie,
Yes.
Thank you.
and she's weighing
What time
whether or
about
not.
did you
she
take
wants
over
to.
the dispatch desk that morning?
Immediately following when the 911 call came in.
Would have been 6-ish in the morning. Does that sound about right?
Sometime, I would say towards the later of my shift, but it was the middle of winter and dark out, so I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6.
Understood. But it was still dark out.
Yes.
Once you took over the dispatch desk, did you stay there even past your normal shift ending to support the investigation that was ongoing?
Not to support the investigation. I was just on overtime.
Okay. So you stayed past your normal
Pause.
in time of your shift.
That right there, she is going to go back and say the opposite later on when she tries to clear her name for the report that she gave to the FBI. She says right there that she stayed on overtime and she doesn't know what time she left. That's all I want to say.
Oh wait, she said that?
Yeah.
It will come up later on, but I mean that she says she was on overtime. She stayed late.
I
She
think
can't say what time. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I think what's even more scary, if you just like pull all this aside, this person carries a gun and has the
Yes.
ability to arrest you. And
Yes.
if she's going to let emotion and pettiness and combativeness, it has to be in her everyday kind of way of acting. You just don't show up and like all of a sudden you flip a switch and it's like, I'm not answering any questions from you. This is my guess is who she is. And she's carrying a gun and a badge. Kind of concerns me.
Exactly. And for her to say she has no idea why she's there, you were working the night that a fellow officer whose department you now work for was found dead on a lawn in your town. So if you have nothing to hide or anything like that, wouldn't you want to be there to provide whatever information you could in order to get justice for your fellow officer who has died?
Yeah.
I think she's trying to say, I think she's trying to make it seem as if she doesn't remember anything. So why am I here if I don't remember anything? I already made it clear I don't remember anything. So why do y'all have me here?
Mm-hmm.
And she should lose her job just for that alone.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, it takes any trial. Like, yes, in this country, you have the right to a speedy trial, but especially a murder investigation, officers aren't called to go testify on the stand for 2 to 3 years sometimes. And they can damn well go on that stand and they can testify to exactly what they remember that night.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, "Oh, it was 2.5 years ago. I don't remember." Give me a break.
Hey, somebody believes her though. I promise you that.
I know, and that's scary.
Yeah, her parents.
Yes, on overtime.
You stayed into the afternoon, correct?
I believe the shift ended at 3:45 p.m. for the Canton Police.
But you stayed past your ending shift time, correct? I'm sorry, I'll rephrase it. Did you stay past your ending shift time?
For my regular shift, yes, because I was on overtime on the day shift.
Did you observe anything unusual that stood out in your mind that occurred, pardon me, in the Sallyport while you were on that shift?
So we've discussed this previously. I can't make that statement on the stand because I've been provided information released by the defense that it was not a memory, that it was a distorted memory. Therefore, I can't state it because at this point it would be a lie. I cannot make that statement that you're wanting me to make on the stand because I've advised that that would be a lie.
Ms. Dever, I've never asked you to make a statement one way or the other on the stand. I'm asking you an open-ended question.
Okay,
Did
so
you,
prior
let
to
me
the
ask
first
the question. Did you observe something in the Sallyport garage on January 29th, 2022 that you found unusual, that stuck out in your mind?
given factual information that makes it so I know I did not, no.
So the answer is no.
Sorry,
Correct.
stop.
Do you remember
Pause
being
right there.
interviewed on August?
What was that word salad? I had said something, but I didn't say it, and I don't know what I said, and
It was based off a distorted memory. You were not interviewed by the FBI that long after the case.
and
Your
what
memory was distorted that quick?
And what
She's trying to
exactly is
keep
a
her job.
distorted memory? Was she? I don't know. On
I believe they fed her information showing she wasn't supposed to be on. So just say you weren't here.
Oh, of course,
So,
yeah, no doubt.
but is she getting away with this? Do y'all believe she's getting away with this or no?
Um, um, I don't think that local law enforcement would do anything against this. I think if the federal government realized or could prove that she was bullshitting them, that's a different story.
Yeah, but how do you prove that, right?
I mean, you put the screws to her and you say, listen, you were warned that lying to a federal agent results in this type of penalty. I don't know what the federal statutes are, but she's being extremely careful. She's two things. She's being extremely careful to not be a hostile witness, which I would have classified her as one. And number two, she's being extremely careful not to explicitly perjure herself. So,
and she feels forced up there. I mean, do you blame her though? Because I kind of understand what's happening. She want to keep her job, and she understands she can't go against her brothers.
she tells the truth. She keeps her job anyways.
Oh, you believe so? But yeah, she would
Absolutely.
have them hating her though if she told the truth.
Well, you know what? She's at least got two things for her. She's not going to lose her job for telling the truth on the stand, and number two, she's going to have a clean conscience.
The clean conscience, what matters, yeah.
And at the end of the day, as Megan mentioned a few minutes ago, a fellow who's now, she's in the same department that John O'Keefe was in, and she's now saying, if you just take this back, she's going to say Ken Berkowitz, who is the now deceased chief of police in Canton, and Brian Higgins, who's an ATF agent, who has absolutely no reason to be near that car in a Sallyport, just because he has an office in Canton. They were in there for, I forget what she said, an oddly, strangely long amount of time. She didn't say she saw them break anything. She didn't say she saw them tamper with anything. She's like hedging against something that the defense thinks she's going to say. All she had to do was say, I saw them in there for a long period of time. I don't know what they were doing. I didn't see anything. That's it. She's making this a bigger deal than she should.
I think the commissioner did. You go, Megan.
And I also think that at the time that she gave that report to the FBI, that's when she was doing the right thing. She was a young girl. She graduated high school in 2016. This happened, she was in her early 20s, just starting her career out. At that point, I believe she really was just trying to do the right thing. And now this is what it has turned into. And this is the act that she's going to put on. And she's making herself look so awful.
She didn't have to do this. All she had to do was, I told the FBI this because that's what I saw at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't say I saw Ken Berkowitz taking a hatchet to the rear tail light, or I saw Brian Higgins kicking it in with his friggin', toe or whatever. All she had to say was, I saw them in there for a long time. I don't know what they were doing, unless she actually did see what they were doing.
Possibly.
But all she had to do was, I saw them in there for a long period of time. They were inspecting the car. That's it. Now she's blown this up into her own conspiracy, and now she's coming across as combative. She's coming across as petulant. She's coming across as petty. Mm-hmm. I just think she made this the bomb that it is. She didn't have to do this, and I think that's representative of a few things. I think she's probably emotionally immature. That's coming across
clearly
across, obviously. I think she's protecting the quote unquote blue line blindly without even thinking like, shit, I didn't even have to go here. And I I just think she, if as a defense witness, this was a gold mine. Just to add to the Commonwealth's witnesses as far as their combativeness, as far as them dying on certain hills with, disgraced former, state troopers. I just think she caused this on her own. And I mean, just look at her right there. She's ready to do battle when she didn't have to.
I feel for her. She don't know what to do. She feel confused.
Hire an attorney then.
Everybody else did.
Well, hey, it's too late for her.
9th, 2023.
I do.
That was by a separate law enforcement agency, correct?
Yes.
2 separate law enforcement agents, is that right?
Yes.
And you were advised during the course of that interview on August 29th of something, correct?
Can you rephrase
I'm sorry,
that?
August 9th.
So what was I advised of? Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Were you advised that lying to those officers would be a crime?
So it was a willing conversation. I've spoken with their legal team. Because of the fact I was providing factual information that showed a statement of mine was a false memory, it was not a lie. Therefore, I made it in good faith, and I retracted given information that it could not be accurate.
Ms. Dever, did you understand my question?
Yes, I did. You threatened to charge me with perjury during our phone call prior to the first trial if I didn't lie on the stand right now. I'm telling you, I did not see anything. Factually, I've been provided evidence by a timeline that it is not correct.
Ms. Dever, my question was this. Were you advised
What?
that it was a crime to lie to those law enforcement agents? Yes or no?
No.
They never told you, they never admonished you that it would be a crime to lie to them?
Objection.
Sustained. As to form, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Did they advise you of anything? Any consequences of lying to them?
So we had a willing conversation.
Yes or no?
I don't recall.
So, okay, there's your answer.
You don't recall if they advised you of anything?
No, because it wasn't.
As a trained law enforcement agent.
Go ahead and ask a question, but both of you only one at a time, okay?
As a trained law enforcement officer, are you aware that it's a crime to lie to certain other law enforcement agents?
When you have intent to lie, yes.
Okay. So you knew that when you spoke to these law enforcement officers, correct?
Yes.
She wants to cry. I still feel bad for her. She's
No, I
killing
think she
herself.
wants to claw Alan Jackson's eyes out for putting her on the spot. And first of all, 2 things. Number one, an attorney cannot charge you with perjury.
You're an officer. How do you not know that?
A court of law can charge you with perjury if they deem that you have purposely lied on the stand. Second of all, I would bet everything I own that the FBI does not provide their legal team to you for counsel in an open conversation. You speak to an agent. You don't speak to their legal team. What is an FBI legal team? You know what the FBI's legal team is? The Department of Justice. And I guarantee she didn't speak with the Department of Justice.
Well, so far, what did y'all think?
I think that she couldn't get it out of her mouth fast enough that you told me that you were going to charge me with perjury. That what? How is that an answer to what he just asked you?
That's, yeah.
Well, she's scared. She just understood she was lying, or she has to lie. So I just feel bad for her. She got on my nerves, but I feel bad for her still.
But I think this goes directly to the point that Dave made earlier. She either lied then or she's lying now. It cannot be both ways.
And second of all, Karen Reed's car was in that Sallyport. If Brian Higgins and Ken Berkowitz were in the Sallyport near her car, this woman is on trial for murder. This woman's not on trial for jaywalking. And if this woman here is willing to distort facts or, forgive me, I forget, false memories or brain farts or whatever the F she called them, she is purposely deceiving the court and a jury in a murder trial.
She got bad advice.
She got terrible advice.
Well, are y'all ready for the second part?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you tell these law enforcement officers that you, in fact, saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sallyport with the
Objection.
SUV? May I finish my question?
You can finish this question. It's okay. Go ahead.
Did you tell those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, that you saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sallyport together and alone with the SUV for a wildly long time?
That was my recollection at the time.
So you did say that?
At the time, that is what I recollected.
Okay.
I think he paused so the jury could really think about what she just said. Like that long pause was, did you just hear what she just said?
Right.
She's
Yeah.
lying.
God, Megan.
It's one thing to say that was my memory at the time. If she wanted to counter it with, I saw them walk in there. I don't know how long it was. You know what? It couldn't have been that long. She probably could have saved herself a little bit of face. But to go from having a memory that you saw them in there for a wildly long period of
That's a
time
good point. That's a great
to
point.
I wasn't even on shift
Yeah.
when this time is when they were supposedly in the Sallyport are two very different things.
Yeah, you don't volunteer wildly long time unless that's what you saw.
Exactly.
And I think there's some comments coming in, but you see in the Sallyport video these apparitions of people just coming in and out of the frame. And at one point, there was a female, what looked like a female officer, just because of, I believe it was a ponytail in the back of her head, in the Sallyport. It was either her or Helena Rafferty, who was the chief. And according to records, Helena Rafferty was not on duty that day.
Exactly. And the
So-
Canton
Oh, wait.
Police Department is not a large department.
No,
There-
it's not.
No, there's two female officers. I mean, at the time it was Chief Berkowitz, and it would have been, I don't know what her rank would have been at that point,
Associate
but
chief or something like that.
right, and who is now the chief of police.
Who's now retiring.
But- Exactly. But somebody
wait.
go ahead.
No, you finish your
So-
statement.
If it was, and like Dave said, Helena Rafferty was already proven to not be there at the time, and say she was, she was so high ranking at that point, she wouldn't have walked in had an ATF agent and the chief of police be able to turn her right around. A rookie cop who's just starting out, if she walked into something she knew she shouldn't have been walking into, is
Get outta
certainly
here.
going to turn. Yeah, certainly going to get herself removed from that place.
But is there any possibility she could have just wanted to be part of the story? So she said, hey, I saw them and they were in there for a long time. Is that a possibility or not at all?
No, I think she saw what she saw. She told it to federal agents, and now
Is
through
recanting.
either explicit or implicit coercion from the Boston Police Department, Canton Police Department, combination of the two, go back and what we said earlier, do the right thing. And do the right thing to me does not mean stick to that statement because it could potentially implicate multiple people. It means do the right thing and know your role.
Yeah. Wow.
I just keep going back to she's a rookie cop on the Boston Police Department. She worked in Canton, great, but as Megan said, it's a smaller police force. If you go to Canton, it's a beautiful town, but it's small. It's not this vast metropolis. And you drive by the police station, it looks like a schoolhouse. They make it look wildly big on these videos and everything. It's not that big, and there's not a shit ton of officers in that town. comparative to, you know, much larger cities. She then goes to the Boston Police Department, and she's a rookie cop, and the commissioner calls her into his office. That would be like me being a midnight watchman, and I work at Microsoft, and Bill Gates calls me into his office to talk to me. That is literally the type of comparison.
And I certainly don't think that it's a coincidence, the time frame of when she switched from Canton PD to Boston PD.
Yeah, that's
Gets
suspicious.
It gets a big salary raise, and all of a sudden, not for nothing, she's off the midnight shift. She testifies that she works day shift now as a rookie.
Right.
Making upwards of $200,000 a year.
Officer Mullaney, when he was a rookie, right? When he testified, I don't know if it was this year or last year, he was just telling the truth from what I saw.
Yeah,
so
it's much easier. It's much easier to tell the truth than try to keep a lie straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
If I tell Megan a lie and then I have to tell that to another person, Jay, and I tell it to you, and then you and Megan talk, and then all of a sudden, wait, Dave said one thing to one person and one thing to another person. That's when things get, you know, shady. But if I'm just being honest, like, I have nothing to worry about.
you don't have to remember anything.
You don't have to remember anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep your facts straight. The facts are the facts.
Well, too bad for her. I am still feeling bad for her because she's so young. And you know, when you're young, you make decisions you just regret. And this will alter her life forever.
Okay, but I counter that, and I say this: if she testifies like this, and then Karen Reed gets put in jail for 25 to life or whatever the term is,
I get it.
Karen Reed is still a relatively young woman. She's in her 40s, and she's going to lose that until she's 70 years old, because this one here would rather protect the blue line than be truthful. So I apologize. I have zero sympathy.
Zero?
I have zero sympathy for her.
Zero. You signed
until I
vote.
started talking to y'all, I felt that way. When I was watching, I'm like, you're just a scumbag. That's what I was thinking. But now I started feeling bad because she really don't know what she's doing. She's really, she's hurting herself bad.
Exactly. And to your point, she is very young. And you know what? God forbid I found myself in her position. I would take a very long look into whether or not this is what I want to make my career out of.
Yeah.
She is young. She can start over somewhere else doing something else.
Absolutely.
And you said she doesn't know what she's doing. I don't agree with that.
Oh, you think she do?
Absolutely. She made a conscious decision to say that was a false memory. I didn't say that at the time or I don't remember saying that at the time to the FBI. You threatened me with perjury. It was clear that I made a false statement, but then I corrected it. That is a bridge too far for me to believe that she didn't know what the hell was going on.
No, absolutely. But she doesn't realize her life is over. That's what I'm saying. She doesn't realize if she just told the truth, it would have been so much easier.
I don't think it's
like
over.
Just move. Oh, you don't think so? That's perfect.
I don't think she's going to lose her job.
I don't think lying she's right on the stand.
I don't think she's going to lose her job. I mean, with public employees who, whether they are above reproach or people like this who do what they do, they have unions that they go through a process and determine, did she knowingly lie? Did she, present bias? Did she do this? Did she do that? It's not like a cut and dry. And I think she also said when she met with the commissioner, maybe this comes up, Boston Police Department basically has your back. We support you. So
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the police are going to back their own. And the only reason that I think that she would ever lose her job are if and when the feds do step in to dismantle a whole bunch of the testimony, like you had said earlier. I mean, I think that she is choosing her words very, very carefully. It's infuriating to watch, but I mean, she was very clearly coached. I don't think that she was called into the commissioner's office to say, do the right thing. Good luck. I think that she was given a lot of advice on how to answer certain questions. I mean, I don't think that they told her to go up and be as combative as she is.
Yeah.
That's certainly not doing herself any favors at all. But I think that she was given a lot of advice on certain wording to use, how to answer certain questions, and then, you know, you do it the way that we're telling you to do it, and we got your back.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Y'all making me care less. Thank you. Y'all are.
Did you indicate that you noted I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
You and I spoke, along with Mr. Unetti and Ms. Little, on a conference call last year sometime. You remember that?
Yes.
Between the time that you were interviewed on August 9th, 2023, and when we spoke sometime in maybe it was April or so of last year, does that sound about right?
Yes.
Did you have any conversation with any other party about your potential involvement in this case?
No.
Did you have a conversation with anybody in the commissioner's office at Boston Police Department?
Not about anything malicious.
I didn't use the word malicious. Why do you say malicious?
I had a conversation, but it was my department saying, regardless of what I need to say on the stand, they support me.
You were asked to go to the commissioner's office, correct?
Yes.
How long had you been on the Boston Police Department at the time that you were invited to go up to the Commissioner Michael Cox's office?
It had to have been before the first trial, so, and I know it was when the agency released information to outside people.
That's not my question.
Okay, so I don't recall.
Okay. You don't recall how long you had been on the force, generally, at the time that you were called up to the Commissioner's office, on the Boston Police Department?
No.
Was it 5 years, 2 years, 2 months? Give me a ballpark.
So I've been on the department for 2 years and 2 months. I would say somewhere in the range of a year.
Okay. Did you find it unusual for would you call yourself a rookie back then?
Be right back.
Yes.
Did you find it unusual that a rookie police officer would be called up to the commissioner's office personally to discuss a matter?
It was a reflection of how good of a leader he is. It was not anything that I found unusual, given the fact he is someone who wanted to show support for his officer.
So all of
great answer.
your, I'm guessing all of your training class or all of your entry
A little
class,
kiss ass, but-
they've all gone up to
Yeah.
the commissioner's office as well?
I don't know anyone else who's been in this particular circumstance.
Do you know anybody else who's been called up to the commissioner's office at your level at the Boston Police Department?
Objection.
Sustain.
When you went up to the commissioner's office, did you respond to his indication that he wanted to see you up in his office?
It wasn't a direct line of contact from him.
Okay. Did you respond? Did you ultimately go? That's what I mean by respond. Did you go to his office?
He's my boss, so yes.
Okay. And who else was in that office?
Me and him. The two of us.
General counsel for the Boston Police Department?
No, it's just me and him.
During the conversation that we had last year, did you say that general legal counsel for the Boston Police Department was also there?
Objection.
Not during
Sustain.
that conversation. We
Objection.
Next question.
Sure. Continue, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dever, when we left off, I was asking you about the meeting at the commissioner's office. And I want to clear this up. Was general legal counsel in that office or not when you had a meeting with the commissioner, Michael Cox?
No, it was just me and the commissioner.
At some point, did the commissioner say to you that Boston Police Department, insofar as your connection to this case is concerned, Boston Police Department fully supports you?
Yes.
Did he also say, do the right thing?
That's a direct quote, so I can't recollect if he said a direct quote 2 years ago.
A year ago, when you talked to
She just said she doesn't remember when she was called in. Now she does.
the defense, did you
She's
tell
playing herself.
the defense that when you were called up to the commissioner's office, he told you two things? Commissioner Cox told you, number one, the Boston Police Department supports you, and Officer Deaver, do the right thing.
So he said my name correctly. He said Dever, and
That's my mistake. Let's see, like, you want me to repeat the question so I get
So,
that right?
Mr. Jackson, let's go ahead and answer, please.
yes, and he
Wildly
said nothing
petty
with the intent
comments.
of guiding me one way or
I
the
asked you what
other.
his intent was, madam. I asked you what he said to you. What were his words to you?
That he
This is
supports
ridiculous.
me.
And
Just wanted me to tell the truth up here.
his words were, do the right thing, correct?
I don't recall.
She had to choke that one out.
How many other times have you testified in a court of law? During the course of your job?
Two dozen, 3 dozen.
Just answer.
In,
Actually testified probably ballpark a dozen times.
in any of those other cases, has Commissioner Michael Cox called you up to his office to discuss your testimony in any of those cases? Yes or no?
Answer the question.
That's
a simple
not a
yes or
no
no.
answer.
Well,
It
yes,
is?
It actually is, Ms. Dever.
It's an open-ended
So no
question.
comments, okay? Just,
You understand the question?
The question, yes. The implication,
The question is, in any of those, I'm asking you an open-ended question. In any of those cases, Officer Dever, not including this one, has Commissioner Michael Cox ordered you up to his office to discuss your testimony?
no.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that was the two that I had that were cut up where I removed some of the waste from it. I tried to remove as much as I can. The rest is just as is. I don't know if y'all want to continue that way or how y'all want to do it.
I mean,
It's an open-
it's however you want to do it. Yeah, I'm good to hang out for a bit.
All right, so can y'all talk about what just happened? I'm gonna set it up for y'all right now, for us.
I mean, I think that she's trying to get ahead of Alan Jackson, which is not doing herself any favors. When she's saying, "Do I understand your question?" Yes. The implications of your question. It's just, you sound like a child. If you don't, he said, how many times have you testified in court? 2 dozen, 3 dozen? Oh, testified? A dozen. So was that a question you didn't understand?
But why are they allowing her to do that? That's what I don't understand. Because she's allowed to do that. There's no pushback against. Well, 2 times she said something, but it's no real pushback.
No, I mean, the pushback was Alan Jackson is asking open-ended questions, and Alan Jackson or any seasoned trial attorney, criminal trial attorney, is not going to ask a question he does not know the answer to. And I think Megan was going on this route, and just to follow up on that, she said no, but with what did she say? Like not those implications or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't mention anything like that. So that's telling me, just from a psychological standpoint, she's taking this, she's trying to take it 5 steps further than where he's just asking a question. And she's putting it in her own mind. Oh shit, what are the implications of me just answering this question as is? Or how is the jury going to take this based off of how I answer that? And
Right. Not to interrupt, but
no, go.
very similar to when she said there was no malicious intent behind, or the conversation was nothing malicious. I forget her exact
didn't ask
wording,
that.
Yeah.
but like, just
Yeah, but
answer the questions.
we weren't privy to the phone conversation she had with the defense, so I think she's going off of that, because she kept saying they tried to get me to lie, they tried to get me to repeat the lie. So could it be that's keeping her like on, like she seems nervous, as if they're gonna.
Well, if you listen to I keep saying recross, but it's redirect with Alan Jackson. They didn't ask her to do anything. They asked her specifically, or what I remember, and maybe this is different, but they asked her, what did you say to the FBI when you interviewed with them on, what was it, August 9th of 2023? And I have no doubt in my mind that they said, is that truthful? Or are you making it up? Or what? She put it in her own head that they were going to charge her with perjury. A skilled attorney like Jackson, or any other skilled attorney, cannot go out there and say, I'm going to charge you with perjury if you don't say this. They legally, they cannot do that. And she gets it in her own mind that it's a hostile conversation, and maybe it was very a stern conversation, but there is no way you can convince me that they said we're going to charge you with perjury.
I think he asked her. Do you know it would be perjury if you blah blah blah? And I
That's
think
probably,
that may have, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That makes more sense. And there is I mentioned this earlier, there's zero chance that a federal agent or federal agents who are investigating this entire sphere of the case and the district attorney's office and Mass State Police or whatever they were investigating, there is zero chance that they didn't start that conversation off knowing that she was involved in this and knowing that she was part of Canton PD that night or early morning hours. Do you know that if you don't tell us the truth, there are consequences for this? Lying to us does you no good. There is zero chance they did not start the conversation out with that because they're investigating something and she was part of that investigation.
Well, that scared her off.
No, I think it scared her to tell her the truth back then. I think now she's
then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. I think when she gave her statement to the agents that approached her, she was being truthful. She was a young, very rookie police officer just starting her career out. She saw something that she knew was off.
Mm-hmm.
She reported it. And then she never says, with the timeline that was given to me, I couldn't have been there. So she never says, I made this statement, and then those same people were able to prove that I couldn't have seen them. Who's the one that corrected your timeline back then?
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to know why I think she told the truth? Because I don't think she thought she'd be sitting up on that stand today.
Mm-hmm.
I think she said that too. She said
Yeah.
she just thought she was going to work. She didn't know what.
Yeah. Well, I think she gives a statement to the FBI. Great. They're doing an investigation into whatnot. I don't think this is much larger for this case. I don't think anybody thought that they were going to be up on a stand in 2025 or 2024, the first trial in 2025, because let her take a plea. It's
Exactly.
easier if she takes a plea. Otherwise, this is going to turn into a circus or whatever they called it. They never thought that she was going to fight these charges. Her attorneys, Alan Jackson and Bob Alessi, each different sides of the country. New York attorney, LA attorney, two largest cities in the country. They're charging $1,800 an hour, and they charge every 6 minutes. They're not
Every
getting
6
paid.
minutes.
Every 6 minutes, they start hitting that timer, and it's $1,800 an hour. David Yannetti, one of the brightest defense attorneys in Massachusetts, he's probably, and this is no disrespect to him, he's probably only charging about $800 or $900 an hour. Eliza Little, probably another $1,000 an hour. Plus, the guy that Mr. Wolk, I can never figure out what his name is. The guy that is doing the computer screens up on the
Yeah,
the
their audio
displays.
check. Hmm.
He's probably charging $75,000 for this, plus all the experts. And this gets to the ARCA people. Brennan was saying, well, they were paid $20,000 by the defense. That's basically food and lodging for people with that distinguished
That's it.
background. ARCA is probably getting charging upwards of $500,000. So her entire legal bill at this point is probably upwards of $6.5 million, at least.
And they're not charging anything.
Her,
No, I mean,
her
I'm sure they
lawyers,
have-
her lawyers aren't.
Okay.
All
Right.
of the money right now is going towards
Experts.
the experts, the travel, the lodging, the
Okay.
food, all of that. Because
Okay.
her legal team believes fiercely in her innocence. I mean,
much do
they
you
could
think-
have.
I
Go
was going
ahead.
to say, how much do you think Marie Russell was getting charged or charging? Marie Russell's probably getting paid $75,000 for this.
Mhm.
Reports, analyses, looking at actual photos that the medical examiner, she probably, for a day's worth of work or 2 days worth of work, she probably charged $2,500 without question.
So the guy for the prosecution, the one that had the pain on his arm, was it his?
$400,000
Yeah, for
is what
us.
the Commonwealth paid for him.
And that's an open-ended contract too, because he still has an opportunity to testify and rebuttal. They have to fly him out here. They have to lodge him. They have to feed him. He has to get up on the stand. He's probably going to rake in, Aperture is probably going to rake in another $50,000 for that. Hank Brennan is now on the $250,000 for this.
$287,000, I believe.
And I guarantee Hank Brennan's probably going to rake in another $150,000, mind you, paid by the taxpayers of Massachusetts.
That's what I was going to
because
ask you. The
it is-
taxpayers are paying that.
So I don't live in Massachusetts anymore. You guys are paying for it.
That's sad.
And out of any gin joint in the West, why would you pick Hank Brennan? I'll say this: Hank Brennan,
Norfolk
Right.
County alone has almost 100 DAs.
Right.
So the state of Massachusetts has hundreds of DAs. And we're a very, very, very small state. And they could not find whether they want to spin it as there's just no way to spin it. Do you guys think that you don't hire district attorneys, assistant district attorneys that are brilliant enough to, if they're saying this is such an open and shut case, You don't think any of your ADAs are competent enough to lead this trial?
Well, it's either they believe two things. They believe they're not competent enough, or they didn't want to take the case.
Exactly.
It's probably the latter.
It is
I believe it's the latter.
that's what I think. That there is not a single DA, ADA in the state of Massachusetts that is willing to take this on.
And now you've got McLaughlin and Lally sitting there. Literally, what's that new phase where, or that new thing where people go on these long flights and they don't open up a book or they don't have the TV on and they just sit right in front of the seat like that.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what it's called, but they fly like 12 hours and they don't do anything except like stare at the seat in front of them. That's literally what they're doing. And if Lally's going up there to either direct or cross-examine some witness, that witness is useless, because otherwise Hank Brennan doesn't share the pie.
No. And I mean, you can only recross somebody that you've done, or you can only recross someone who you have already done the direct on. The same way, like, because Alan Jackson is the one questioning this witness, Bob Alessi, David Yannetti, they can't stand up and do any objections. That is your witness. You are the only one allowed to question them. You're the only one that's allowed to redirect them. So they, like you said, Dave, I think it's been 2, maybe 3 times that they have thrown Lally a bone and allowed him to go up because they knew it was just useless.
Yeah, I mean, there's out of any attorneys that you could pick to prosecute a case, you pick the defense attorney for Whitey Bulger.
But how did you think he did against Marie Russell? I
think what he was trying to do, a few things. Number one, she has an impeccable reputation. 30 years as a medical physician. What do you call it? You're getting 11 o'clock, Dave, here.
Forensic pathologist. Law enforcement. She was a police officer for 7 years.
In Malden. So that does 3 things. She's got the trifecta. Not only can she identify injuries, number 2, she can treat injuries, but also third, she can also determine the manner and the cause of death. And she has peer-reviewed studies. She cited 2 articles, which went so far over his head, citing pattern recognition and the causality of dog bites and all of this stuff. And his questions were, you're not an accident reconstructionist. She's a doctor. She's not an accident reconstructionist. I think we've all figured that out. And then he does this little snark thing at the beginning of the cross yesterday where he's like, do you have memory issues? And she goes, don't tell me the jury didn't see that. And what's even more infuriating is they did a voir dire for her. And I think this was the biggest mistake that Brennan could have done. So he sets up this hearing for Marie Russell to basically try and disqualify her as an expert. And it does 2 things. Number 1, he's going guns a-blazing and everything in this voir dire, and it's not in front of a jury, so she's, being combative back to him and everything. But she was allowed in. Bev Canoni decided it was a close call, despite all of her background and whatnot. But it does 2 things. Number 1, she knows the questions that are going to be asked now, and so doesn't the defense. And the defense can hedge those off and direct by preemptively asking those questions, so it immediately starts neutering Brennan's cross-examination. And then he starts getting into, you didn't look at the scene of the crime. And she was forceful, and she was like, there's no chance any of those taillight fragments did this type of damage. she did what's called a differential diagnosis, which also means you start with any and all causations of a fatality. Is it a knife? And I might be repeating myself. Is it a knife wound? Is it a gunshot wound? Is it this? Is it that? And she said, by looking at the hundreds and hundreds of dog bite victims that she's looked at in her career, she's like, I immediately ruled those out. He's like, well, what about a side swipe and everything? And then they brought up the Smurf arm, blue Dr. Welcher or whatever. And he tried to rattle her, but what I keep saying is, be careful what you ask for. They asked for the voir dire. She's now prepared. She knows the questions that are coming in. So doesn't the defense. And she was not rattled. And the same thing happened with Lucky Lachlan. I can never pronounce his name. Lachlan today.
Oh, wait, so the jury wasn't there. I thought, okay. When she
No,
said
no.
rattled,
So
I thought the jury was there.
The voir dire that she had a few months back, the jury was not there. They brought her in for her testimony. The jury's there. However, she knows the questions that were asked in the voir dire. And Hank Brennan can only change those a certain degree here, a certain degree there. And it also allows the defense to say, oh, wait, he's asking all of these questions right now in the voir dire. When she gets up in front of a jury, we have first dibs at her because she's our witness. Yeah, witness.
Our expert, yeah.
We our expert, we can preemptively cut off his legs by asking these questions that he was probably going to ask. So, I mean, it's just, I think, and just to finish this, go ahead.
Hank Brennan requested this voir dire because he knew how qualified she was. And he didn't want to have to go up against somebody who has such an impressive resume and who has so many credentials that work out in the favor of the defense. And like Jan had said, the defense didn't seek her out. She found out about this in the media like everyone else. When things started to come out and she had said it on stand, I thought that I could just offer my expertise in this just to say, because I saw the injuries and I knew it was those wounds came from a dog. Mm-hmm. And Hank Brennan, I mean, his questioning was basically saying, you wanted your 15 minutes of fame. And she said, this is not what I wanted. I wanted to offer what I know, given my background, working at a level 1 trauma center in Los Angeles and seeing all of these different things. This woman knows what she's talking about. And I think that Hank Brennan thought that he could rattle her. And there are very, very, very few people that are smarter than Dr. Marie Russell.
Yeah.
And he keeps running headfirst into this wall where he wanted the voir dire with just to, and I'm sorry, I have to jump in a second, just because this is 5 hours after my normal bedtime. But he asked for the voir dire for the ARCA witnesses as well. And he was with Dr. Wolf and Rentschler, especially Wolf. He was freaking, frothing at the mouth. You got paid for this. You didn't announce that you were using Signal and everything. Well, you know what? Now the defense knows that's what he's going to be questioning them about when they get on the stand. And I guarantee if it's Alan Jackson, they're going to be like, did we use Signal? Yes. Okay. Why did we use Signal? Great. Were you paid $20,000 for us to after the trial? Yes, we did pay you. We did charge you $20,000. So right then and there, that starts kneecapping the prosecution on redirect. And I think trying to be cute by not wanting these people in and knowing that there was a good chance that they were going to get in anyways, he's limiting, number one, what he can redirect on or recross on. And number two, the defense knows what he's going to be asking.
Wait, let me ask you, because this seemed like you may know. When the defense asked for a mistrial because of the DNA that was brought up, I don't understand that. Why couldn't they bring up the DNA?
They shouldn't. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. However, my understanding was that in the first trial, the prosecution had a DNA person that tested the swabs on the arm. The swabs taken by Michael Proctor, by the way. Let's just mention that. And all they found was pig DNA.
Pig.
And I will just say this. What type of toys do dogs tend to chew on?
Mm-hmm. And
Anyhow.
so it was never introduced into evidence.
In this trial.
Smart.
So, I mean, yes and no. The prosecution could have introduced that into evidence like they did the first time. But pig DNA is found in so many different dog chew toys and like the dog treats. And again, like Dave said, it was Michael Proctor who took the swabs. So Hank Brennan had every opportunity to introduce this DNA into evidence, and he didn't. And then he asked about the DNA, which he never introduced. So that should have never been brought up because he was asking about evidence in the case that had never been presented during this trial.
Right. So he basically became his own witness by introducing DNA. And it just goes back to when he was asking Marie Russell, well, doesn't there's no after he was allowed to ask the questions about DNA, he was like, well, doesn't that change your opinion about it being dog bites? And she's like, no. The clothes were on the floor of the ambulance. They were on the floor of the hospital. And I think she and this is why the voir dire, I think, helped, because she was like, I think there was shoddy chain of custody.
There was no chain of custody.
She didn't go that far, though, because then Brennan would have been like, what proof do you have that there was chain of custody? And he was alluding to that. When we spoke a few months ago, you had mentioned some unfounded theories as far as chain of custody. She didn't even go there because that's where he wanted her to go. She was like, it was weeks before it actually went to the lab. And second of all, there are many reasons why dog DNA doesn't show up outside of chain of custody. So
oh wow. And I was sitting there thinking like, oh man, is she hurting the fence? That's what I was thinking.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No.
Okay.
And
no, that was him grasping at straws, and he can't shake what she knows to be true.
Okay, see, it seemed like he was discrediting her because I'm like, oh man, when
He
he's
tried.
asking about the teeth marks, the parallel, I was like, oh God. And when she was saying she measured it, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, you're killing us. So that wasn't hurting. Okay.
No, and this is, I think it got towards the end of the testimony when he was asking about, well, there were no internal injuries. How do you know about that? And she was like, the medical examiner literally, and I feel horrible saying this because it's, part of an autopsy. The medical examiner literally cut it from his buttocks down to his Achilles tendon, peeled his leg open to see if there were any I think it's called subdermal, abrasions or hematomas or whatnot. The guy doesn't have a bruise below his arm. And the only other significant injury he has is on the back of his head. Show me how a car does that at 24 miles an hour going 64 feet.
Yeah.
The only blood that was found at the scene when he was found in the yard, which, by the way, Jen McCabe said they had to flip him over.
Exactly.
So he was face down when they found him.
And there was
back of your head and forward. Yeah,
and there was
vomit.
throw up on the front of him.
Correct.
On the front of him.
Yes.
On his shirt, on his pants,
on his boxer, his the back pocket of his jeans was ripped off, hanging off. But it was interesting because in today's testimony with Karina Kolakithis, and they're showing the video evidence from when they're at the waterfall, you see him very clearly in two different points of that video. He's putting something in the back of each one of his pockets. So you can immediately discredit that he was walking around with ripped jeans. There's just nothing consistent about this case. And
Sad.
the defense is, I think, in my opinion, they are doing.
They're
I thought
prosecuting this case.
exactly. Trial number 1 was laughable. I didn't think it could get any worse. And Hank Brennan is just doing an awful job. And I think that
Adam Lally was
he's getting up there doing a wonderful job.
Adam Lally was useless. At least he was a useful, a nice idiot. Hank Brennan is Hank Brennan is bottom of the barrel, and I'll tell you what really removed any redeeming quality from him. And I have to jump after this, but he had Michael Proctor's friend read the text messages within the group chat. Michael Proctor in that group chat for the first time revealed that John O'Keefe's niece and nephew, their father, died of a drug overdose. Those kids didn't know that until 2 days ago or whatever it was. That tells you how much of a piece of shit that guy is. So that's why I'm saying I have zero sympathy for any of them.
I thought he just got it wrong. You're saying that is how he died for real?
John O'Keefe's brother.
It was reported that he had died of a heart attack. Tragically, 3 months after his wife had passed. Michael Proctor, who is investigating this, tells his buddies the wife died of, was it leukemia? Or I believe it was a very aggressive, yes. So, and it was very quick. And then very tragically, 3 months later, the father dies of her husband dies of a heart attack.
That's what his mother said, and I believed it.
And
Michael Proctor said, though, that it was a drug overdose.
That's what I'm saying. Could he be? I thought he was just wrong.
On the mother's grave.
Yeah.
On the mother's
grave?
On
his wife's grave.
On his wife's grave.
I mean, on his. Yeah, on his. Oh, wow.
And he says he says in it that he says Liz has the blueprints for all of this. Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, and I do actually after this I have to jump off as well, but keep in mind Michael Proctor and his wife live in Canton. Mm-hmm. The home that John O'Keefe moved into when he took custody of his niece and nephew was in Canton because that's where his sister Kristen and her husband lived. So it would make sense that they could have known each other. And the children were so young when they lost very tragically both of their parents. It would make sense that they didn't tell two young children, your father died of a drug overdose. It would make sense that your father died of a heart attack.
Right. And putting those in, this is my last thing because I'm literally going to go face down into my keyboard. There is 1,000,000% sympathy for those kids. They knew nothing else except their parents passed away tragically. Now their uncle dies. And now they're being told that Karen Reed did this. And there's zero blame for those kids. They didn't deserve any of this. Who deserves the blame are the people that are starting or keeping them as close as they can to say, like, no, this is really what happened. You don't need to know that. Well, Michael Proctor pulled the friggin', the rabbit out of the hat 2 days ago by saying that it was overdosed. So I'm gonna jump.
Oh, thank you, y'all. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, David.
Let's do this
Thank
again.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate
Let us
ya.
know when you would like us to come back. I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Appreciate y'all. I enjoyed it. Y'all just schooled me with a lot. So thank you and have a good night, everyone.
All right.
Good
See you
night.
later, guys. Bye.
Thank you.